Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. How are y'all? Let me know if you can hear me. I am drinking OPP by Mason Noir. What are y'all up to? Today, we're about to get into an alleged scam, a definite sham. Can say that with full certainty, and all around foolishness. All right. This is probably going to be okay. Great. Thank you, Adam. Hey, Angela. This is probably going to be super long, to be honest. Usually I like to keep the lives to an hour. There are 61 slides because a lot of nonsense to get through. So we will see if we get there. We'll see if we get through the whole thing. On that note, if you ever want to have some input in what we're talking about in the lives, you can always head over to Instagram at Wine and Chill. I do a poll every Thursday morning. If not, like sometimes I do it on Wednesday ahead of time to see what y'all want to talk about. So that's how we arrived here. Okay. If you're not familiar, we are going to be talking about FTX and crypto in the fall of a one SBF, which don't worry, if you don't know who he is, you will know in 5 seconds. So this is going to be long. So we're going to do a brief just overview as to what the hell happened. So the FTX fallout, into the celebrity endorsements. We're going to peruse our way into the lawsuit and then into the actual complaint because an alleged $1 billion scam has occurred. Interesting. Not surprising with crypto, to be honest, which we're going to get into that. Then we're going to get into Binance and CZ. And no, that's not Cubic Zirconia. That is another crypto CEO who, if I do say so myself, is a very petty man, but very direct. And then we're going to get into whether or not crypto in this sense should be considered a security. In my opinion, my legal opinion as a recovering lawyer, the answer is yes. And as usual, this is not legal advice. However, I would heavily recommend not to invest in speculative assets that you do not understand, as I do not invest into speculative assets. I'm just gonna put that out there. And then we're going to put the claims there at the beginning and then a little sip and discuss. So we'll see how this agenda changes because this shit is very long. Okay, so first and foremost, what occurred? At least $1 billion of client funds are missing. They have vanished. They have disappeared. Who knows where they went? At the failed crypto firm FTX. So FTX is a crypto exchange. You can purchase Ethereum, Bitcoin, maybe that coin that has the dog on it, Dogecoin, that type of thing. That's what they allegedly did or do. They're on pause at the moment, which is usually what happens when you lose $1 billion. Now, brief overview from Routers. So FTX founder Bankman-Fried, that is SBF, that is his lovely initials that he likes to go by, secretly moved allegedly $10 billion in funds to trading firm Alameda, according to sources. It should be known from the beginning of this that Alameda is also owned by SBF. It's giving commingling, okay? Bankman-Fried, SBF, showed spreadsheets to colleagues that revealed shift in funds to Alameda, allegedly. These are all allegations. However, there are some screenshots of some of these allegations, so mess. Spreadsheets indicated between $1 and $2 billion in client money is unaccounted for. This is people's life savings. Yes. Executives set a bookkeeping backdoor that thwarted red flags, according to sources. Whereabouts of missing funds is unknown. A backdoor because there's very little regulation in crypto. Crypto is highly unregulated. It is almost as deregulated as the Texas electric grid. Very much so. They allegedly set up a backdoor in their coding, which allowed them to just channel funds elsewhere. I smell criminal charges coming. Now, one of the interesting things about this case and me being from the 305 proud Miami mommy is Miami got roped into this heavily. So the crypto exchange fund is originally headquarters and is legally based in the Bahamas. The man is not Bahamian, just to point that out there. Interesting. However, they had their U.S. headquarters in Chicago. They decided to move to Miami because Miami, under our old mayor, well, actually, he's still the mayor. The mayor of Miami-Dade is different from the mayor of Miami. We technically have 3 mayors. As somebody who's lived in New York for almost a decade, I'm still 305 till the day I die. The mayor of Miami, Mayor Suarez, very much believes in crypto and did a huge crypto push. So a lot of crypto companies have since moved their headquarters to Miami. It should be noted from the beginning of this live, Miami is known for a lot of things: warm weather, good food, happy yardies, and scammers. Being from Miami, you either are a scammer or you have known or still know a scammer. It is what it is. And it's not surprising to me that crypto has found its way into a very deregulated Florida market. All right, the exchange has been steadily building up to its presence in southern Florida, including purchasing the naming rights to the NBA's Miami Heat Arena in 2021 for $135 in an effort to legitimize itself. I don't care that it was the FTX Arena for about a year, it's the AAA. The AAA is still there, and now it's not the FTX Arena, so they might as well give the naming rights back to American Airlines and recall it the AAA again. So much foolishness has gone on that the mayor of Miami-Dade County, which is different from the mayor of Miami, we like things complicated, had to issue this statement saying the reports about FTX and its affiliates are extremely disappointing. Miami-Dade County and the Miami Heat are immediately taking action to terminate our business relationship with FTX. And we will be working together to find new naming rights partners for the arena. We are proud of the impact our Peace and Prosperity Plan, sponsored by the County Commission. Girl, what does this have to do with anything? Miami was bamboozled. We were bamboozled. And the AAA will still be the AAA. All right. Now, in finding all this out, SBF, as people do when they have been accused of fraud, went to Twitter and said, "Hi all, today I filed FTX, FTX US, and Alameda for voluntary Chapter 11 proceedings in the US because he is the owner of all three. I'm really sorry, again, that we ended up here. Hopefully things can find a way to recover. Hopefully this can bring some amount of transparency, trust, and governance to them. Ultimately, hopefully it can be better for customers." There's a lot of hope for someone who may be accused of actual fraud. Yes, this is true. The highways, I-95, the turnpike, and many of the buildings, quite literally, are built by drogas. All right. Now, what are the counts in this lawsuit? Count 1, violation of the Florida statute section 517.07, the Florida Securities and Investor Protections Act. Essentially, that act states, hey, if you are going to solicit people to invest in your securities, you have to tell them what the risks are involved. Now, people who are big fans of crypto will tell you certain crypto is not a security. That is not how it should be categorized. The SEC would beg to disagree in many instances, and particularly most likely in this case, which we'll get into in a little bit. The second count is for violations of the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act. And then the third count, which is going to be for the whole entire class, because the class action is civil conspiracy. Yeah. And there are a lot of defendants. So speaking of which, I highly recommend that all of the athletes and entertainers involved call their agent, fuss their agent out, and also separately call their lawyer. So, what is the FTX scandal? How the celebrity-endorsed crypto giant collapsed into chaos. One of the interesting things about this lawsuit, it's not just SBF and FTX. FTX don't have any money. There's no point to sue them. They are broke. It's not just SBF that's being sued. It is a long list of celebrity endorsers because to legitimize crypto and to legitimize his company, FTX sought all of these celebrity endorsements to be like, hey, regular people like you, they're going to, get onto my crypto exchange. Come on, just stand here, smile, and say, let's do it. And that is highly problematic. So a few of the defendants, let me make this bigger so y'all can see. Actually, let me make... hold on. Well, nope. This one? There we go. There's the one I wanted. Okay. Let me read it over here on my other one because y'all know I cannot see. Okay. Here are some defendants. Thomas Brady. Y'all know that man, Deflategate, everyone's favorite, not favorite quarterback. Gisele Bundchen, his soon-to-be ex-wife. Kevin O'Leary, a.k.a. Mr. Wonderful. I wonder if he gave himself that name. Kevin O'Leary is an interesting man. Udonis Haslem. I was very disappointed that they roped in OG Heat player Udonis Haslem. Sad. Defendant David Ortiz. Now this is the MLB. Sam Bankman-Fried. That's SBF. He's the former CEO of FTX. Steph Curry. They got a lot of basketball players in here, child. The Golden State Warriors themselves, the whole organization. Lord have mercy. On to the next. Shaq. I mean, I'm not surprised by Shaq. Shaq will endorse anything. William Trevor Lawrence. Hopefully I say this right. Shohei Ohtani, professional baseball pitcher. They said, listen, we're doing all races, all creeds. Naomi Osaka, Lord have mercy. Lawrence Gene David, who is a beloved comedian. Okay, now, one of the things that I was saddened by as an OG Miami Heat fan, a fan from back in the day when Alonzo used to play at the AAA, just to put this into perspective, F you to the bandwagon fans that came when LeBron came. I said what I said. Udonis Haslem minding his business, roped into nonsense. I wanted to know who were his agents, because an agent's job, and y'all know I used to work at the sports agency, and one of them is on the screen. An agent will sell their client to do anything. That's their job. They make a commission, usually around 20%, and they get that commission by saying, listen, my favorite player, you do this, you do that, just smile and wave, and we will get all this money. If it was me, and I was representing any type of entertainer or athlete, I would, as an attorney, I would personally ensure that the agencies put in indemnification language. Specifically, indemnification is basically when you get sued, you say, hey, as a third party, you roped me into this. This is your problem. I'm the one getting sued. My name is in the lawsuit, but you're going to pay me back, because the agent, again, will sell you into anything. Without an indemnification clause, the agency is off the hook. I would guess, and let's just use Shaq as an example because Shaq's face is on everything. I would guess that maybe if we use Shaq as an example, he's not the most familiar with all the products that he is hawking. Maybe he just over there, remember when he did, what was the foot one? He did the foot thing. There's all types of things that he's just, the agent said, hey, this is what you're doing. This is how much money we're getting. Okay, cool. Smile and wave, kiss the baby, do all these things. It would be a little bit unfair, in my opinion, to get in trouble for something that I don't even know what it is, because the person is supposed to be looking out for me. The person with the financial duty, the person with the fiduciary duty is just putting me up for nonsense. Now, if you actually did your research and you're like, you know what, this seems a little sketchy, then the problem is really on you. As the lawyer of the athlete, I would definitely start putting indemnification clauses in their contracts with the agencies, because the agency don't care. The agency will put you up for anything. So this is from the lawsuit, paragraph 9. Part of the scheme employed by FTX entities involved utilizing some of the biggest names in sports entertainment, like these defendants, to raise funds and drive American consumers to invest in the YBAs. We'll get into what the YBAs essentially is. That is what they're categorizing the assets. They're just calling them YBAs because they yield things. And that is one of the tenets of what a security is, which were offered and sold largely from the FTX entity's domestic base of operations here in Miami, Florida, pouring billions of dollars into the deceptive FTX platform to keep the whole scheme afloat. They all going down with them, child. And what's really interesting is some of these defendants, named defendants, on top of getting their fee, so say they charge $200,000 for an endorsement, part of their contract also gave them equity in FTX. So if FTX is worth $1 billion, they got a percentage of that. Well, FTX is now worth zero. So that equity is worth nothing. Not a penny. All right. Importantly, although defendants disclose their partnerships with the FTX entities, they have never disclosed the nature, scope, and amount of compensation they personally received in exchange for the promotion of the deceptive FTX platform, which the SEC has explained. The SEC is a Security Exchange Commission. They regulate having anything to do with securities. So the stock market, things like that. Has explained that a failure to disclose this information would be a violation of the anti-touting provisions of the federal securities law. Moreover, none of these defendants performed any due diligence prior to marketing these FTX products to the public. Now, one could argue maybe the agent should be doing the due diligence. Maybe the athlete themselves should be doing the due diligence. I know I personally am not about to say nothing about anything unless I have done my reading. Because if it's your name on the dotted line and your face there, is you who's going to be in the lawsuit. And what's interesting is Floyd Mayweather and DJ Khaled, which is not for the FTC, but other cryptocurrency issuers, they both had to pay the FTC or the SEC, the SEC $767,500 in fines because they tweeted out, hey, yes, go try this crypto. Yes, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Go do this. Kim K the other day, same thing. I think her fine was $1.5 million, almost around there. And her manager is Chris. So Chris should have done better research, or which is most likely because they seem to hawk anything. You remember when they used to sell flat tummy tea? Obviously, everyone knows that flat tummy tea does not work. It's catching up with them. Other celebrities, let me make me smaller. Other celebrities similarly accused and prosecuted for failing to disclose their paid endorsements include Kim Kardashian and basketball player Paul Pierce. Even Paul Pierce in his retired age? Lord have mercy. According to the Federal Trade Commission, cryptocurrency scams have increased more than tenfold year after year, with consumers losing more than $800 million since 2020, due in large part to the use of such celebrity endorsements. And I want to repeat that. Consumers have lost $80 million since 2020 in 2 years because people are convinced that they are the exception and not the rule. I'm happy to tell you, most of us are the rule. Investing money into a speculative asset and you thinking like, no, I'm going to triple my money, I'm going to do this. It's not going to work. It's most likely not going to work. It is a bad idea. You will lose your life savings, most likely, which is what currently happened to a lot of people. All right, some pictures because they had some lovely pictures in the complaint. Here is Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen. Imagine trying to divorce somebody and now you're in a lawsuit together. I would just be so annoyed about that. So irritated. Here goes Steph Curry in his ad right here. Crypto, you'll be anything but bored. Well, I'm sure he's anything but bored right now with this lawsuit. Woo. Here goes Shaq doing what Shaq is very good for, which is a sponsorship and an endorsement. And on to the lawsuit. So I do like a lawsuit that starts out spicy. This is a great question, Kieran. What about financial YouTubers that push FTX? They are not currently named in this complaint. This is a great question. However, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe later lawsuits name them. But keeping in mind, lawsuits, you can sue anybody. The filing fee, depending on the state you're in, is less than $100. However, you want to sue somebody you know has money. Truthfully, people don't go and sue people they don't think have money, because then what's the purpose of it? You're irritating yourself versus by having a class action against SBF, which SBF, his net worth has gone from $26 billion allegedly to zero. So I don't know if he has any money right now either, but by having all these named defendants, most likely they have some type of money so they can pay the restitution. These financial YouTubers, child, who knows? Who knows? All right. Listen, Lexi, Shaq refuses to turn down a check. I wonder if he might be a little bit more careful now. Like, oh, okay, I see that was a bad idea. Oh, Shaq. Oh, Shaq. These endorsements working out for him the same way his free throws. Lord have mercy. All right. So this is the beginning of the complaint, which I thought, you know what? I love when things start off spicy. So let's start with this. So let me scroll down because y'all know I cannot see. Class action complaint and demand for jury trial. Then there's the thing. This is a quote from Mark Cuban. This is how the lawsuit starts. Then there's things that have happened with Voyager and with FTX now. That's somebody's running a company that's, and in bold letters, just dumb as F greedy. So what does Sam Bankman do? He just, give me more, give me more, give me more. So I'm going to borrow money, loan it to my affiliated company, and hope and pretend to myself that the FTT tokens that are in there on my balance sheet are going to sustain their value. Mark Cuban, November 12th, 2022. To which the next line is a tweet from SBF. I'm sorry, that's the biggest thing. I effed up and should have done better. Defendant Sam Bankman-Fried. What I said, Beekman, sorry. Sam Bankman-Fried, former CEO, FTX. This man said, I apologize. Can we stop talking about this? Okay, let's move along. Yeah, that's not really going to work. So, on to the introduction. The deceptive and failed FTX platform was based upon false representations and deceptive conduct. Now remember, all complaints are allegations. However, some allegations do have tangible receipts. Although many incriminating FTX emails and texts have already been destroyed, we located them, and they evidence how FTX fraudulent scheme was designed to take advantage of unsophisticated investors from across the country who utilize mobile apps to make their investments. As a result, American consumers collectively sustained over $11 billion in damages. That is a shit ton of money. FTX organized and emanated its fraudulent plan from its worldwide headquarters located here in Miami, Florida. Miami became the quote-unquote hotspot for crypto companies, hosting the most investments in crypto startups, as well as the annual Bitcoin Miami 2022 Global Forum, which we're not going to get into the rest of them just dragging my poor Miami for filth. We get it. We get it. Y'all found the place where scammers like to reside. Okay. Not all of us are scamming. Now, one of the interesting things about the crypto segment of finance, the crypto sector, is that it is not without, first of all, disdain for many people, but also many tangible lawsuits. So this lawsuit ropes in a prior lawsuit, which is why they're roping in Mark Cuban, even though he is not a named defendant, because they're all interchangeable and they're all intertwined. So billionaire Mark Cuban faces proposed class action lawsuit over involvement with collapsed crypto platform Voyager. So there are a bunch of crypto platforms, and essentially earlier in the year, one of them, named Voyager, was filing for bankruptcy. Allegedly, Mark Cuban, because he tweeted out that Voyager is the best thing since sliced bread, he became one of the named defendants in that lawsuit. What does this have to do with SBF is because SBF stated, and throughout his career, mind you, the career is not very long. The company started in 2019. It's 3 years old. How you blow through $11 billion in 3 years? Very wild. SBF stated, you know what? I want to help crypto. We're going to become legitimate. I and FTX are going to bail out Voyager. So that is why Voyager is mentioned in the beginning of this lawsuit, because his alleged bailing out then proceeded to cause some issues. On September 28, 2022, Voyager filed a motion in the Voyager bankruptcy cases seeking authority to enter into an asset purchase agreement with West Shires Inc., doing business as FTX US. It should be noted that FTX US is technically separate from FTX. FTX is the international arm of the company, which sits in the Bahamas. There is a reason why certain companies shop and do forum shopping for where to headquarter and to start their businesses. It is because they are most likely not compliant with US laws. All right. Whereby Voyager will sell substantially all of its assets for a purchase price of approximately $1.422 billion, which includes the value of the cryptocurrency on Voyager platform as to date to be determined, and is estimated to be $1.31 billion. All right. Now, what then occurred was everyone involved in the Voyager bankruptcy cases thought that the FTX entities were the Deus Ex Machina, come to save the day by bailing out Voyager and paying back at least some of the losses the Voyager customers sustained. Voyager essentially went bankrupt. They had no money. So FTX was going to sweep in and save them and then give some of their customers like, hey, you know, Peggy, I know you lost your life savings because your grandson done gambled it away, but we'll give you half back. We're going to try and help you. Instead, as explained below, the FTX entities imploded. Their over $30 billion in value evaporated almost overnight. It happened in about 3 days. In 3 days, $30 billion just poofed in the air. And the FTX entities found themselves filing their own emergency Chapter 11 bankruptcy petition in Delaware. The deceptive FTX platform maintained by the FTX entities was truly a house of cards, a Ponzi scheme where the FTX entities shuffled customer funds between their opaque affiliated entities using new investor funds obtained through investments in the YBAs, which is the securities, alleged securities, and loans to pay interest to the old ones and attempt to maintain the appearance of liquidity. We are going to go through the Ponzi scheme chart because that is exactly how a Ponzi scheme works. Hey, you give me $10, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to give you $15. I then recruit 2 more people, have them give me $10 each so I can pay you to pay them. Now I need to recruit 4 people and so on and so on and so on. Eventually, you run out of people that you're trying to thief money from, or somebody finds out that what you're doing. Now, I just highlighted this because, as Marie Kondo said, I love mess. Until seeking the protection of the bankruptcy court, the FTX entities operated a multi-billion-dollar mobile application cryptocurrency investment services titled throughout the rest of this lawsuit as the deceptive FTX platform. That is how you enshrine your pettiness into a complaint that placed cryptocurrency trade orders on behalf of users like plaintiff and class members and offered interest-bearing cryptocurrency accounts. All right, let me remove me because I think the last part. FTX built the FTX.com exchange to develop a platform robust enough for professional trading firms and intuitive enough for first-time users. The key is first-time users. They built an app. Now, this is going to show my age, and this must be my age, but also my spirit is a strong 65. I still have not understood why people would purchase anything on their phone. I don't purchase anything on my phone. I get onto my laptop and I make the purchase because something about putting my banking information into a website on my phone, I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. Having $11 billion in assets running through an app, yeah, it doesn't seem, it seems like that wasn't going to lead anywhere good. It seems to me that that was not going to lead anywhere good. All right. FTX quickly became one of the most utilized avenues for nascent investors to purchase cryptocurrency. The reason why the celebrities and the athletes are named as defendants is largely because the campaigns they ran with FTX were very much like, you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know anything. All you need is a cellular device and a bank account and hook it up and you'll figure it out. We'll do the work for you. Who is that targeting? That's targeting young people. That's targeting people who maybe have never invested anything. It's targeting people who likely don't even know they have a company 401k that is more reliable that they could invest in. That's who it's targeting. Okay. By the time FTX filed for bankruptcy protection, customers had entrusted billions of dollars to it, with estimates ranging from $10 to $50 billion. And it's estimates at this point because obviously a company like this doesn't really keep good records. SBF got rich off FTX and Alameda, which we'll talk about what Alameda is in a second, with the two companies netting $350 million and $1 billion in profit, respectively, in 2020 alone, according to Bloomberg. Yes, this is exactly like Firefest. This is sad. This is like Firefest, but I would say that this impacts much more regular people than actually rich bratty kids. I would definitely say. This is definitely impacting your Forex friends. I know everyone has a few Forex friends that you try to ignore their nonsense. Is definitely impacting them. At his peak, Bankman-Fried was worth $26 billion. At 30, he became a major political donor, gotten celebrities like the co-defendants in this action to vociferously, promote FTX and secured the naming rights to the arena where the NBA's Miami Heat play. For him to get the naming rights to the AAA, that's a feat. He had a real team, but upon looking into the company, a company again that allegedly $10 to $50 billion, they had only 300 employees. Yeah, okay. That's not giving a very robust compliance team to me. So enter the competitor in the pettiness, which is Binance and CZ. I guess everybody in crypto likes to just use acronyms. I guess it sounds cooler. I don't know. Bankman-Fried's cryptocurrency empire was officially broken into two main parts. So this is the difference between FTX and Alameda. It doesn't explain in the lawsuit the difference between FTX International and FTX US. That is, to be quite frank, from a legal perspective, just there to avoid US regulation, which they didn't even do a good job at that because Texas went and documented all of their stuff in the complaint as well. So FTX is the exchange and Alameda Research is the trading firm, both giants in their respective industries. But even though they are two separate businesses, the division breaks down at a key place. On Alameda's balance sheet, which was full of FTX specifically, the FTT token issued by the exchange. So FTT has its own crypto tokens. Like Bitcoin is the most famous one. Then you have Ethereum. There's also FTT, which is issued by FTX. That grant holders a discount on trading fees on its marketplace. So, hey, You could buy Bitcoin, which is all over the place, but has been around a little longer. You could buy Ethereum, which is a bit more stable, or we'll give you a discount and you could buy our lowly regulated FTT, which now is worth $0. Oh my goodness. While there is nothing per se untoward or wrong about that, it shows Bankman-Fried's trading giant Alameda rests on a foundation largely made up of a coin that a sister company invented, not an independent asset like a fiat currency, so like our dollar or another crypto. The situation adds to evidence that the ties between FTX and Alameda are unusually close. It's giving commingling. They're saying everything but the word commingling, which commingling of funds is if you have two companies and they're supposed to be separate and you're just like, yeah, we kind of just share the money. You're going to share the liability too. That's not how this works. So, a little excerpt from USA Today. It all started earlier this month when digital currency news site CoinDesk revealed Alameda Research, a trading firm founded by 30-year-old FTX founder Sam Bankman. I don't know why I keep messing up the man's second to last name, Bankman-Fried, that conducts trades on FTX, was heavily dependent on FTT, the token issued by FTX. Basically, these are not asset-based securities, and that's because he refused to acknowledge that they're securities, but they essentially are. When the balance sheet was leaked, it was sort of like someone pulled the curtain and realized that the Wizard of Oz was not what we had thought, Malikin said. It broke the illusion that this was this very high-flying, professional, very successful operation run by these young geniuses. People need to stop being so quick to just assign people the G word. Not everyone is a genius. Some people are just charismatic scammers. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger. So enter Binance. Binance is a direct competitor and a different crypto exchange. So a direct competitor of FTX. So after Binance realized like, oh, your money is funny over there, friend. Interesting. I smell a good cost, low cost acquisition, allegedly. Changpeng CZ Zhao, the CEO of Binance, who just likes to go by CZ, decided to liquidate roughly $530 million worth of FTT. Customers also raced to pull out, and FTX saw an estimated $6 billion in withdrawals over the course of 72 hours, which it struggled to fulfill. It struggled to fulfill that because where was the money, honey? Not sitting allegedly in the bank account where it was supposed to be, because that's very indicative of a Ponzi scheme. The value of FTT plunged 32%, but rallied once again when Bankman-Fried's surprise announcement on Tuesday, November 8th, that Binance would buy FTX, effectively bailing it out. So Binance withdrew their money and then, according to SBF, said, you know what? Now that you're kind of broke and your valuation is lower, we can acquire you. Why don't we buy our competition? All of the articles I read, it leads me to believe that Binance, when you acquire somebody, you have an M&A transaction, a merger or an acquisition, you get to see their balance sheet. You get to do due diligence. You get to have access to things as a public investor, a public person you wouldn't necessarily see. It would seem to me that Binance was being cautiously nosy. It is very much giving off like, I want to see how bad this balance sheet actually is. Like, what exactly is in here? And maybe I will share that information. That is how it came across to me, in my opinion. The next day, so Binance said on one day, yep, okay, fine. We pulled all our money out, but we're going to bail you out. We're going to buy you. And then the next day, after doing their alleged due diligence, they announced that they were withdrawing from the deal, citing findings during due diligence, as well as reports of mishandled customer funds and the possibility of a federal investigation. This new set of news set FTT plunging even further. Bankman-Fried saw 94% of his net worth wiped out in a single day, which he then decided to file for bankruptcy and then step down as CEO. And if you're wondering who CZ is, this is CZ, who completed his almost hostile takeover and said it was clear FTX misappropriated users' funds and lied to investors. Listen, CZ was just being nosy, never thought of it like that. I mean, it very much was giving hey, let me like acquire you so that I can see everything. If you are a competitor, because capitalism rewards when you take out your competitors, it rewards semi-monopolies. I mean, it is an interesting business tactic that clearly paid off for him. So, appearing and then to add fuel to the fire, CZ then went to the Milken Institute's Middle East and Africa Summit on Thursday. He was asked to respond to a tweet because Sam, now most likely under investigation for fraud, is still tweeting, in which he referred to a sparring partner, largely believed to be CZ. To which CZ then quickly replied, when he tweets about a sparring partner, his house is burning and all this is happening. He's losing focus. I didn't know this problem existed in FTX before. Otherwise, we would have sold those FTT tokens a long time ago. He said, mind your business. Mind your business. Don't worry about me. You're over there with your whole everything crumbling, and I'm over here giving talks and getting paid. I mean, I would say that's what checkers looks like, or playing chess, not checkers, looks like. Also, again, this is real, regular, degular people's money involved, which is why this is a hot mess. A hot mess. Now, we're not going to go through all these tweets. SBF, I know so many acronyms. Tech loves acronyms. And I should have said this in the beginning. If you're familiar with my channel, you already know this. But I used to work in tech for almost a decade as corporate counsel, as commercial counsel, working mostly with the sales teams to negotiate deals, as well as with engineering teams, with product and development sometimes, and then a little bit of employment law. Because when you're in-house, you do everything. Tech loves acronyms. Tech loves an acronym for everything. They usually give you a like company glossary of all the acronyms the company uses. It's an interesting place. We're not going to read through all his tweets. Instead of being quiet, he went on the internet and decided to half-ass apologize, I suppose. And I think parts of it are kind of interesting because it is also included verbatim in the complaint, screenshots. The full story here is one I'm still fleshing out every detail of. He said, I didn't really know, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. But at a very high level, I effed up twice. I would say it's maybe more than twice, but okay. He then went on to say, and so I was off twice. He's really holding to the fact that he maybe made like 2 large mistakes and the rest, who knows, which tells me a lot of things, both specifically and generally that I wasn't. It's just funny to me. Both specifically and generally that I wasn't shit at. Sir, you evaporated allegedly $11 billion of people's money into the air. And you're like, listen, I'm just an ain't shit ass person. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm trying to be transparent now, but in transparency, I'm trying to tell you that I'm an ain't shit ass person. And yeah, transparently, I'm not shit. Okay, let's continue. Yeah. Interesting. Let me remove me so you can see what he says. Oh, no, wrong one. This one, here we go. Okay. And so we are where we are. This couldn't have been my money loss. It couldn't have been my money loss at all because we would have had an argument. One keep arguing would have occurred, which sucks. And that's on me. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, not the anyway, like, I'm not shit. But anywho, right now, my number one priority by far is doing right by users. Okay. Interesting. I can't make any promises about that, but I'm going to try and give anything I have that will make it work. You don't have anything. And to make sure that y'all see the GIF I used, sir, you can't even afford cheese. Allegedly, you have $0. What are you going to do? Oh, man. So one of the things that he didn't say in his initial tweets, but that has since come out, which, according to a recent Reuters report, however, another explanation contributing to the precarious house of cards that was deceptive FTX platform is that earlier this year, SBF secretly transferred at least $4 billion in customer funds from FTX to Alameda without telling anyone. I wonder if this is one of the 2 mistakes that he thinks he made. Okay. After Alameda was hit with a series of losses and that the FTX entities lent more than half of its $16 billion in customer funds to Alameda in total, with more than $10 billion in loans outstanding. Oh, all right. Yep, it's giving commingling. And how he did this is, according to various reports, including routers and Intelligencer, is a secret backdoor through coding. So Bankman Fried has so far explained that a mistake, he keeps calling it a mistake, in internal labeling had led to customer deposits being used to fund his hedge fund. He said, you know what? Those other engineers, not me, because I'm the genius engineer, the other engineers, they made a mistake in the coding, and don't ask me what I was doing, but the money was moving and it went to the hedge fund. I have no idea. This is important when you're trying to come up with a legal theory that lets you off the hook. Look, it was bad, but it was an accident. If a backdoor built into the company's code is only known to or accessible by the top executive or something like that, it starts to get at something prosecutors really salivate over: intent. White collar crime is difficult to prove, in large part because someone's state of mind is crucial to demonstrating that something was an intentional fraud. White collar crime is difficult to prove because our country does not like to lock up white collar criminals who cause way more damage than the average criminal. Okay. Now, because people are always in defense when they have invested a lot of money into crypto and into just speculative assets in general, all I would say to that is this is what a Ponzi scheme is. These are the parameters of a Ponzi scheme. Does this sound like your asset? So you start off with one schemer, somebody who thinks, you know what, I got a plan. And sometimes maybe they start out and they're like, I could really do this because I'm the exception. I'm not the rule. Most people are the mother effing rule. First, you got to get two people, right? Or you could really start with one person if you want to start small. So you get one person and you say, listen, it's me and you, boo. Give me some money and we're going to see how this works. Hold on. Let me pull it up on my screen because y'all know I cannot see any of this. Okay. So, the Ponzi scheme requires an unsustainably large pool of investors. In this simplified example, the schemer starts by taking $1,000 from investors, promising to double it within a month, but instead of investing their money, it pays them with the funds garnered from other investors they rope in as the scheme progresses. So, you start with the first one. So, you get two first-round investors. You got $2,000. In the first month, the schemer takes $1,000 each from the first two investors. Then in the second round, having pocketed the $2,000, the schemer now needs $4,000 for investors in the second month to pay the returns promised, because they have to pay the first round investors $4,000. They have to pay them $2,000 each because they promised them that they would double their money. So that seems fine. Now, how do you pay the 4 people? Then you have to get 8. You have to double it each time. Eventually, it becomes unsustainable, and much like, was it Madoff? Who is the most famous Ponzi scheme of our time? I feel like it was Madoff. I don't remember right now. Y'all know who it is. Y'all can let me know in the comments. Eventually, once people start asking for where their money is and they start hounding you, the Ponzi schemer, it's Madoff. Okay, that's what I thought. The Ponzi schemer just runs away. They're like, all right, whatever. At this point, I done bamboozled 10,000 people. They can't all find me. I'm moving about my business, and they're gone. When you look at Madoff, yep, Bernie Madoff, yep, thank you. When you look at crypto, one of the big proponents of people, their tenet of crypto is like, crypto is always going to go up. Crypto has made me X amount of money. All of those people that always say that, they invested in the beginning. They invested when crypto was, nobody knew what the word was. They're like, what? Blockchain? Who's chained up? What does this mean? I don't get it. Whatever. And they're like, yeah, I guess I got $10. Bitcoin, as of earlier today, I think was at 20,000, maybe 17,000. The thing teeters up and down. That is very different. If I gave $10 to something and all of a sudden I have 20 grand, well, yeah, I'm gonna believe in it. I'm like, well, it worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but it worked for me. It worked for me, and that's my business. It's overwhelmingly not working for anybody else, because for it to work, you have to rope in more people to believe in the alleged Ponzi scheme. Literally, SBF stated, I took the money. I didn't actually know I took the money. Well, kind of, maybe it was an accident, and I just moved it over here. I moved it over here and I thought it would pay itself back because I invested it, and I thought it would make the money back, and who's going to know? That's textbook Ponzi scheme language. Also, just a little history fact. Ponzi was a person. This is Charles Ponzi. In 1919, Charles Ponzi, an Italian immigrant, promised investors they could yield considerable profits by purchasing international reply coupons from other countries and then redeeming them in the US for postage stamps. See, it's always something complicated. We do this and then we'll trade it for this and that. It's never straightforward. To legitimize the scheme, Ponzi established the Security Exchange Company, not to be confused with the Security Exchange Commission, which exists today, based in Boston. A steady flow of new clients allowed him to pay existing investors while pocketing millions of dollars for himself. And obviously, ultimately, he got caught, which is why it's named after him. Now, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. An important part of this, exactly this, Ben. Crypto used to be not greasy. Ben said, y'all are not showering. Greasy weirdos on 4chan used to buy knockoff LSD on the internet, and you needed $45,000, $45,000 per dollar. Exactly. All right. Okay. FTX maintains that it does not offer for sale any products that constitute a security under federal or state law. Under federal security law, as construed by the United States Supreme Court in the decision SEC v. WJ Howie Co., and by the SEC, an investment contract is a form of security under United States security laws when 1, the purchaser makes an investment of money or exchanges another item of value, 2, in a common enterprise, 3, with a reasonable expectation of profits to be derived from the efforts of others. Okay, the YBAs, which are what they have assigned the name to be the yields you get, where you used to get, y'all, from the FTC platform, were securities as defined by the United States security laws and as interpreted by the Supreme Court, the federal courts, and the SEC. The FTX entities offered variable interest rewards on crypto assets held in the YBAs, which are the yield bank accounts, on the deceptive FTX platform, which rates were determined by the FTX entities in their sole discretion. In their sole discretion, they were like, oh yeah, today is worth $100. Tomorrow, the price went up. It's $200. It's $300. There is no one regulating. What is this tied to? It's not an asset-based security. All right. So what is security? So according to Investopedia, another regular definition, the term security refers to a fungible, remember NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which people have gotten very quiet about NFTs because everyone has realized that it's a scam. Fungible, negotiable financial instrument that holds some type of monetary value. A security can represent ownership in a corporation in the form of a stock, a creditor relationship with a governmental body, which is like a bond, or a corporation represented by owning that entity's bond, or rights to ownership represented by an option. Stock options that you get if you join like a Series A, Series B, Series C startup that hasn't yet gone public. An asset-backed security, which this is not, is a type of financial instrument that is collateralized by an underlying pool of assets, usually one that generates a cash flow from debt, such as loans, leases, credit card balances, or receivables. Again, FTC, mostly on their bank sheet, was their own FTT coin that they invented in Alameda, their fund. Mostly owned, instead of owning, if it would have made more sense if they said like, hey, we believe in crypto so much, we own Bitcoin, we own Dogecoin, we own Ethereum. They said, no, we only believe in us. We only believe in FTT. They are also, again, setting the price of FTT by themselves because it's not regulated. And also by Sequoia, which is a very noted VC firm, which we'll get into in a minute. Now, the interesting part of this is that the FTC trading app, hold on. Yes, so we're talking about the YBS, so the Yield Bank Lord, whatever. I have to look at it in the, hold on. YBA, sorry, the yield bearing accounts. So that is what they are contending is a security in this context, not the actual FTT. So the way that FTX works, so many damn acronyms, you get a yield bearing account. So they were promising people, they're like, yeah, you're going to make an 8% return. So the SEC and this complaint is basically alleging, like, if you're making a return in this yield bearing account, that yield bearing account is a security. So to prove that point in the complaint, they then allege that the FTX trading app showed this is from, I would say, like, not undercover, but a SEC Texas employee, an agent who essentially went on the app, the FTX app, made their own account, and in doing so, did that to prove that, hey, you're not allowed to do this in the US. You don't have any of the compliance you're supposed to have. And also, this is a security. The FTX trading app showed that I was eligible to earn a yield on my deposits. Earning a yield is one of the things that qualify you as a security. It also explains the earn program is provided by FTX.ux, not FTX.trading. It also represented that FTX earn rewards are available for US users on a promotional basis. I recall the FTX trading app's default settings were automatically configured to enable the earning of yield. The application also contained a link for additional information about yield. I accessed the link and was redirected to a recent article published by Blockfolio Rebecca. Oh, that's an interesting way to title the article. Under help.blockfolio.com, the article began as follows. You can now earn yield on your crypto purchase and deposits, as well as your fiat balances in your FTX trading app by opting in and participating, blah, blah, blah. And then it states at the end, you'll be eligible to earn up to 8% APY. That's pretty high. 8%? That's doing better than, I would say, most index funds right now on your staked assets. See, they promise you, listen, you're going to get 8%. Of course, trade with us, do all these things. The only for this to work is to continue to rope in more people. All right. FTX trading app also indicated the earn program is provided by FTX US. As such, FTX US should not be permitted to purchase the assets of the debtor unless or until the Securities Commissioner has an opportunity to determine whether FTX US is complying with the law, and related and or affiliated companies, including companies commonly controlled by the same management, are complying with the law. According to the complaint, and according to FTX themselves, for years, they were like, no, we don't need SEC regulation because we are not a security. We are a crypto exchange. Crypto, this is not a security. We're not giving anybody anything. You're just buying and sell things. Like, absolutely not, absolutely not, absolutely not. And here we are. Now, one of the interesting things is that Kevin O'Leary is a very noted financial personality. He is a millionaire, if not billionaire. I haven't looked up Kevin's net worth recently, and he's very bullish on certain things, which is interesting, particularly on SBF. So to find crypto investment opportunities that meet my own rigorous standards of compliance, I entered into this relationship with FTX, Mr. O'Leary said on Twitter last year. Mr. O'Leary recently deleted the tweet. He also served as a judge for the FTX charity hackathon in Miami in March of 2022. And very recently, on October 12, 2022, O'Leary stated confidently that FTX was totally compliant. Anytime anybody says something is totally anything, is probably totally a mess, and a safe place to hold assets. O'Leary stated that I have to disclose I'm a paid spokesperson. Okay, good job, compliant there. To FTX and a shareholder there. 2, because we mentioned him, and I'm a big advocate for Sam because he has 2 parents who are compliance lawyers. What does that have to do with Sam? If there ever was a place I could be that I'm not going to get in trouble, it's going to be FTX. You know, there's great people, but he gets the job in compliance. That's why we're working so hard to get regulation. Now, sir, what does Sam's parents have to do with it? I know Sam's parents are sitting there like, listen, the child doesn't listen to us. He's running amok. That has nothing to do with me. Sam's parents don't work at the company. And if they do, their name is about to be in this lawsuit. So who is Sam Bankman-Fried? Got it right this time. SBF. Now, probably very much, I would go to guess, against the wishes of his lawyers, Sam decided to get on Twitter, to tweet DMs, to talk to everyone, and to not just fade into the black after losing allegedly $11 billion. He then went, this is out of order. Hold on. Oh, no, it's right. Okay. So this is an article from Kelsey Piper, who I think the article was on Vox. And they had a conversation with Sam, and for a few hours on Twitter, I believe it was yesterday, and they decided, well, I'm a reporter, that's why you're talking to me, publishing the whole thing in Vox. So looming over our whole conversation was the fact that people who trusted him have lost their savings and that he's done incalculable damage to everything he proclaimed only a few weeks ago to care about. The grief and pain he has caused is immense, and I came away from our conversation appalled by much of what he said. But if these mistakes haunted him, he largely didn't show it. And they then proceeded to publish their conversation. So on the blue is Kelsey, on the left is Sam. The question being, so FTX technically wasn't gambling with the money. FTX has just loaned the money to Alameda, who had gambled with the money and lost it, question mark. And you didn't realize it was a big deal because you didn't realize how much money it was, question mark. To which Sam replied, and also thought Alameda had enough collateral to reasonably cover it. To which Kelsey replied, I get how you could have gotten away with it, but I guess that seems sketchy even if you got away with it. Sam, it was never the intention. Sometimes life creeps up on you. Sometimes life creeps up on you as an answer as to why you have lost people's life savings. That's not going to work. That's just not going to work. They then continue to have this very hours-long conversation. You tweeted out some stuff like, we never invest your deposits. That was BS, right? Sam said, it was factually accurate. Kelsey responds, huh? Exclamation, exclamation. Are there three of them? Exclamation. But like their deposits were totally not there. Or you just mean technically it was Alameda. To which Sam responded, FTX, correct. Mind you, again, Sam owns both. This is semantics. This is a semantics ass conversation to be like, well, I didn't technically lie all the way. I just didn't really tell the truth. A lie by omission is still a lie. On top of everything else, last week, FTX lost 9 figures in a hack. A hacker appears to have stolen $600 million in customer funds from FTX. So even if your money by some miracle didn't get spent in the backdoor, accidental Sam maneuvering, somebody thiefed it anyway. And this is their general counsel. I feel bad. I would hate to be their general counsel. General counsel is the highest lawyer in a company. Usually, sometimes people have CLOs, chief legal officers, but 90% of the time you just have a GC. Investigating abnormalities within wallet movements related to consolidation of FTX balances across exchanges. Unclear facts as other movements not clear. We'll share more info as soon as we have it. Mr. Miller, I think you should just get a new job. This seems very stressful. This seems very stressful. Not to be left out of who should actually receive the blame, because it's not just Sam. Sam didn't get all this funding to build FTX by himself. Sequoia Capital is one of the largest, or was one of the largest investors in FTX. They claim that FTX could have possibly overtaken banking giants like Wells Fargo or Bank of America. In what world? In what world? Which the VC firm used to justify its $32 billion valuation of the exchange. This week, Sequoia wrote their $214 million investment in FTX down to zero. An important thing to note how tech valuations work. The VC funds set the valuations. The venture capital funds are the companies that they raise money, usually I would say from like private donors, so high net worth individuals, as well as institutions. Harvard has one of the largest endowments, or if not the largest endowment of any college, billions of dollars. Rich, honey, rich. They invest portions of that money into the VC firms. The VC firms then decide to aggressively invest this money. Having worked in tech for almost a decade, I worked at a Series A company. They had VC money one day, the next day they would have had nothing. I would recommend, honestly and truly, I would never work at a Series A company again. The minute the money runs out and they can't pay you, commotion, obviously. I didn't get paid for 6 weeks. I had to hound that CEO down and was like, hello, you do realize I'm going to call the New York Department of Labor. Sir. To which he looked very confused. He was like, Stephanie, patience. I was like, patience? Bills are due. I don't have time for this. VC funds, because these are private companies they're investing into, they set the valuation. It behooves them to say, of course, my investment I made into this company is worth way more money than I put into it. And I got to this valuation number by this very complicated mathematics I did that I cannot share with you and makes no sense to anybody else, but it's worth it. It's worth $300 billion. Most famously, and this is not negative in this public information, most famously, WeWork had one of the most inflated public valuations, which evaporated in a span of a few weeks. And being a former employee when that happened, that was very sad. That was very sad, but not surprising, because who thought that a real estate company that pitched itself as a tech company was worth an actual $30 billion? Where? It never made any sense. So Sequoia is just as much to blame, in my opinion, for the downfall of people's actual life savings into this, because it's Sequoia that set the $32 billion valuation arbitrarily and then decided, we'll just write it off, because the way VC money works, the bigger firms will have $100 million, $10 billion, $20 billion. SoftBank has some of the hugest funds, $100 billion funds. So they don't need all of them to win. All the startups don't have to win. They only need a couple winners. Uber was a huge winner for all of those VC funds. So they write off all the losses by being like, I had an Uber. That's a 10x event for me. So I made 10 times the investors' money for them. They're happy. 20x, 100x. So this is just $214 million. It wasn't my money anyway. It's fine. But it's actually other people's money, because people see a name, a marquee name like Sequoia, and are like, well, Sequoia said that this is good and that this makes sense. And Sequoia said this is going to be the new Wells Fargo. First of all, Wells Fargo is not the best bank, as most people know. So comparing it to Wells Fargo, maybe that was a little bit telling. Now, according to this letter from Sequoia, because they had to eat their words, which, hold on, let me lean in. Y'all know I cannot see any of that. Here is the note we sent to our LPs. LPs are limited partners. So those are the different entities, sometimes individuals in the fund that actually invest their money. These are very, very wealthy people. Do not feel bad for them. Don't ever feel bad for the LPs. All right. So, dear limited partner, hold on. Let me lean in some more. We are reaching out to share an update on our investment in FTX. In recent days, a liquidity crunch has created solvency risk for FTX. The full nature and the extent of the risk is not known at this time. Based on our current understanding, we are marking our investment down to zero. Sequoia Capital's exposure to FTX is limited. We own FTX.com and FTX US in one private fund, Global Growth Fund number 3. FTX is not a top 10 position in the fund, and our $150 million cost basis accounts for less than 3% of the committed capital of the fund. So that fund, y'all know math is not my ministry, but less than 3%, this is a multi-billion-dollar fund. So they're like, it's less than 3%. Don't worry about it. We're going to make it up with these other startups. We weren't actually even banking on them. It's totally fine. And trying to downplay the fact that they just evaporated the money. Aaron Lopez, exactly. It's crazy how they are trying to downplay what happened. It's monopoly money until it is regular people who have actually put their money into it that can't simply be like, oh yeah, I just wrote it off. Like, what's the big deal? The big deal is that is some people's life savings. Should it have been their life savings? Probably not. However, because of the way it was marketed as, this is foolproof, this is for everybody. You don't know about crypto? Just use this. It's totally fine. Well, that's the problem. And also to know, FTX is an exchange. So you can buy other types of coins in the exchange. So people that have their money in FTX don't necessarily have just FTT in their wallet. They might have actual, I don't go so far as say legitimate, but coins that have been around a little longer. They might have, some Bitcoin in there, Ethereum, things of that nature. Wild. Which one brings me to one, this is a different unrelated article from Forbes, but after a large investment blew up, this article had come out about last year. The startup world is outraged. Venture capital has just demonstrated white male privilege is real and thriving, a system in serious disrepair. It is the hubris of continuing to give these young white men and young white people, because Elizabeth Holmes, she's sitting there almost in the chokey, is an example of this as well. And thinking that it's going to be different. SBF has not learned his lesson because now he is stating he plans to raise funds to bail out FTX. Sir, again, you cannot afford cheese. How raise funds where? And people like Kevin O'Leary, when questioned about it, are like, I still trust him. Just one misstep, billions of dollars. One misstep. You're still willing to give this person money. Why? And this, I subscribe to the Morning Brew. I think it's a pretty good publication in terms of seeing, what's going on in the business world and making sure my little baby 401k is not completely in the crapper. This was from the Morning Brew a couple mornings ago. It's like a newsletter they send every morning. Of course, Zuck and Musk could both still turn things around because those are two other, not so young these days, but young-ish white men who received lots of VC funding over the years. But this week's giant misstep suggests that maybe, in italics, the stories we tell ourselves about the biggest personalities in big tech aren't all true. Ooh, excuse me. And maybe a decade of low interest rates helped them out more than they admitted. Or as Mike Novogratz, a crypto investor who expects to lose $77 million in the FTX debacle, $77 million evaporated from this man's pocket. Okay, here we are. The internet said, not today. I was like, we're almost done. Some young charismatic guy in Bermuda shorts with the floppy hair charmed the 20 best investors and regulators of the world. And that's not the full story. The full story is some young white man with thick hair. Y'all keep giving them money because you see yourself. But yet, when you look at the statistics, Black people are given the smallest pie of VC funding. Yet, the majority of businesses started in the past year in America, small businesses that have survived, are run by Black women. Child, I mean, give me $1 million. I'm sure we could actually flip it and do some things and do something sensible. They're lighting the money on fire and people are letting them. All right. Let's go through some comments. Y'all know my internet. We were so close. I was like, oh, we're going to make it through. The internet said, ha, got you. Got you. All right. If I lost 77 million, we all going to be on the news. Listen. Oh, front page for a week. Commotion will happen. Yeah, it's back on. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. All right. Let's go through some comments. Welcome, B, to your first live. Exactly, Brittany. Let my Black ass mess up for something small, and it's over for me. This man lost billions of dollars, and he still has the hubris to think that he's going to raise more money. And people like Kevin O'Leary, who are still trying to give him money, which, yes, someone said it as well. Kevin O'Leary, the person that was calling people roaches. Child, a raggedy man. A raggedy man indeed. Exactly. Yeah, the racial dynamic is something only Black people get. With W27, Black founders get less than 1% of VC funding. And that statistic hasn't moved for years. Every year, they put the statistic out, and every year, like, we're trying, we're doing better. I'm like, y'all not writing checks. Y'all are literally just giving money away to speculative things and just, oh, whatever. It's a young man in Bermuda shorts with floppy hair. You could just try somebody else. I mean, you have the money to literally waste, quite frankly. On that note, let's go through some comments because it's wine time. Okay. Oh, and we did this in record time. I was like, we're not going to make this in an hour, but we did pretty good. We did pretty good. Okay, I'm just going to start somewhere in the middle. All right. All I can think about are TV shows like Better Call Saul or Ozarks and Severance when I watch any of All Your Lies. Art truly does imitate life reality. Listen. Tea leaf. This is MLM on Roy's. Listen, the Forex folks are over here trying to figure out if they're going to become course people so that way they can make their money back before somebody realizes they done spent off their life savings. This is a good time to say this. And this made me very sad and it was very eye-opening. After I did the Sovereign Citizen video, I received a lot of DMs from Black women who were either previously partnered or currently trying to get out of a relationship with somebody who had bought into Sovereign Citizen mess, which also bleeds into Forex mess. And a lot of the times, from what I was seeing, was people are being bamboozled, people are getting caught up into it, and also people are spending other people's life savings, not even their own money, which is trifling. Many levels of trifling. Callie Coco, speaking of Firefest, Billy McFarland is doing a treasure in jail? Out of jail? I have questions. I suppose not. David, I guess Bernie Madoff hasn't taught anyone to just stop. Nope. No, not at all. All right. LB, there are a few YouTubers that talked about FTX being a scam 6 months ago. Good for them calling it out. Okay. Yes, Binance is the largest crypto exchange. Yes, and now has no comparable competitor. So interesting. LB CZ started the fire and then arrived with water buckets to save FTX. Listen, CZ said, interesting over there. Said, mind your business. He's like, I'm rooting for none of them, but his behavior was funny. I'm rooting for none of them. With W27. SBF's lawyers must have been sick when they saw him tweet. Listen, nothing is worse than an uncompliant client. When you're just like, please don't do that. And they just do it. And you're like, okay, just fire me. I'm done with this. It's commotion. It is commotion. When I used to work in tech, my number one thing to do. So when you are in-house counsel, there's the legal way and there's a practical way, of course. So obviously the legal way might be a little bit more strict. You have to have risk mitigation. So like I would say I have pretty mid-level to high risk tolerance because I started my career in-house versus like someone that worked in big law, probably low risk tolerance. Because I'm like, they're not gonna listen to you anyway. So if you're exceeding my risk tolerance and I've already laid it out for you, you're gonna get that email. As per our last conversation, I told you if you do A, B will happen. I'm letting you know that it's up to you. It is a business decision now. And don't come asking me when foolishness occurs. Because that's the only way you can deal with an uncompliant client. Like, listen, I told you, you're not going to listen. And then they come back to you 3 months later. Stephanie, that awful thing happened. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I told you that. So what do you want now? What do you want me to do? Yes, Angela, 2 little mistakes equals $11 billion loss. Craziness. Craziness. It's like, sir, it's clearly multiple mistakes. Maybe he missed a couple zeros in there. Tenebrification. This is why we have regulations and a bloody government so they can add safety measures when rich pricks decide that playing with people's money is not their problem. Exactly. The government is highly problematic. The government has lots of issues, but regulations are needed because when people do not have any parameters in place of knowing what they're allowed and not allowed to do, they will run amok. Society has proven that over and over again. People will run amok. And even with regulations, people still run amok. But the answer is never going to be deregulate everything. That is not the answer. There's an interview from last year where SBF explained what his company does, and the host responds, paraphrase, that this sounds like SBF is describing a Ponzi scheme he was hiding in plain sight. He said, listen, I'm being honest. We are shuffling money, and we're going to shuffle some back to you, maybe. Crazy. Blue quartz. I know someone who bought a few hundred Bitcoins when they were less than $1. He made big money, then dipped. A smart man, or a smart person. A smart person knows, like, you know what, this is probably speculative, but hey, lightning doesn't strike twice. It's like gambling. It's people that gamble. A smart person, if you don't have an addiction, is like, oh, I won. I'm not going to win again. This doesn't make sense. Remove myself. You should only invest money into speculative things that you're willing to lose, which is actually, because I feel like people don't talk about it enough. And one of the downsides of startups is they love to pay people in equity. They're like, hey, we're going to pay you less. Like, it is a very untrue thing that startups are paying higher than everyone. Big tech is paying a premium. Regular startup, Series B, Series C, no, you're getting regular money. And then they give you a bunch of stock options, which you have to pay for and you have to exercise. And there's so many variables. And if they have an exit event, so an acquisition or the IPO, or you can do a public listing quietly, you know, whatever, then you get your stock options convert into stocks, and then you can sell them, and then you get a large payout. See how many ifs and buts and candy nuts in there? I have only, out of all the tech companies I've worked for, I've only ever exercised one of my stock options because I was like, you know what? I feel like y'all are going to do it. And that money was from my bonus. So I was like, well, if it evaporates, it's not money I had planned to do anything with. And at this point, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, what are y'all doing over there? Y'all going to exit? Like, what? Or am I going to get my money back? Who knows? But that's the only time I would say to invest in a speculative asset. If you work at a tech company and you think that they might actually exit, a lot of these tech companies poof vanish, these startups. They don't make it. The statistics are usually not good. So that is one thing to keep in mind because companies will try, especially now, everyone is so enamored with working in tech because the girlies are on TikTok lying about their salaries, which we are going to talk about the My Tech Best Friend. We're going to talk about that alleged scam or sham and all out foolishness mess later on, probably early next week or maybe tomorrow. We'll see how fast I get through it. But with that, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to make 6 figures. I'm going to do all this. I'm like, what are you talking about? In a non-coding job? I mean, maybe not. A lot of the girls are perpetrating the fool. They're perpetrating the fool over on TikTok, selling people hopes and dreams. And that's not exactly what's going on. That's not exactly what's going on. Oh no, is it not working? See, the internet said we've done enough. It just got out, but now it's back on. Oh, okay. Well, on that note, let's we'll end here then because I feel like the internet is like, girl, I already gave you your one strike. Enough of this. Also, the computer is dying because I didn't charge it. Oh man, it's still not working. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna do a video on the My Tech Best Friend probably tomorrow, and in general about tech and the issues with working in tech and how, in large part of my opinion, the girls of TikTok have marketed tech as like, oh, this is great, we're making all this money, and they're not telling the truth. They are not telling the truth, which is allowing other people to then perpetrate an alleged scam because people are desperate for a good job. Because capitalism will capitalize. So we were going to talk about that. I won't promise tomorrow, but in the next couple of days, because I started compiling all the receipts, all the Twitter threads of that mess. All right. Well, exactly. And as someone who worked in tech for almost a decade and someone who was the attorney and who had access to everyone's salary at multiple jobs, the girls are over here pretending that they're making 180K just graduating college, just lying to people, just lying. And what they're doing is, which is perpetrating the fool, because TikTok will perpetrate the fool, but what they're doing is they're including their RSUs, so their restricted stock units or their stock options, as part of their salary. So say you get granted over a span of 4 years, $100,000 in RSUs. They're like, yeah, that's part of my salary. I'm like, girl, no. First of all, you have to hit the vesting date. But anywho, we're going to get into that, and we'll get into all of that. So TikTok thrives on selling lies. We'll end on that note. It's an interesting place. But I appreciate y'all. If you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe. And hopefully, I don't know what's going on the internet. Hopefully we'll act better. I'm going to call them again. All right. Bye, y'all.